back to another Race Weekend Canada's F1 show. I'm Dames, joined by team manager for Pro Racing Ontario, Daryl Timmers, and we're here to discuss the U.S. Grand Prix. It is in the books. They're calling them the 3 C's.
Yes.
The cheating Constructors Champions.
This is just getting wild. Like, this whole entire scandal is just, you know, Zach Brown speaking up about it. Now him and Horner are going at each other's necks. It's actually pretty funny, to be honest. Like, for the season we had, we needed this.
We did need this. And Netflix.
Yeah,
oh my God. They're like,
oh, finally, something to do.
Okay, so let's backtrack this a little bit, because as of right now, we're shooting on Monday, the day after the U.S. Grand Prix.
Yeah.
There's still no real decision on what's going to happen in terms of reprimand for Red Bull. It was kind of a hush-hush thing, which says to me they agreed to it, which says to me they were in violation, and we don't really know what's happening or what's going to happen, so we're still waiting on verdict from that. But the Zach Brown thing I found rather interesting.
Yeah.
Christian Horner brought the kids into it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, you weren't thinking about that when you were buying all them expensive sandwiches, were you?
Sandwiches.
Yeah. You weren't thinking about the children when you were trying to...
car upgrades, but the sandwiches put them over there.
The whole thing is really laughable. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty of the race. Max had a flawless race.
He did.
You know, sucks for Sainz, who off the line just kind of lost it. But at the end, Max did the work.
Yes, he
did.
Right
off of corner one.
Yes, he did. He got him. You know, Sainz... You know, everyone's like, oh, George torpedoed him, and it's like, yeah, I can see what you guys are saying, but also, you got to remember, Sainz was trying to cut back to the inside. If he didn't try to cut back to the inside with cars there, George wouldn't have T-boned him. And I think, you know, it is what it is. It is racing. George did deserve a penalty in the end. Like, I'm not saying George is not in the wrong, but I'm thinking, you know, Sainz kind of put himself in that situation for that to happen.
I think it was one of those things where you kind of judge the outcome.
Yeah, and didn't think about
didn't really look at the infraction.
18 cars behind.
You know what I mean? Because I when I first saw it, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's penalty for sure. But then I saw it, and it happened on the exit of the corner.
Yeah.
It didn't happen at the apex of the corner. Now, we can't really cape for George and be like, no penalty deserved or whatever. He did. But it was really Sainz trying to open up corner 2.
Yep, trying to
get the run on Max, because he gave Max the lead. You know what I mean? So it was one of those bang plays. It was definitely unfortunate because he put it on pole. In the end, though, Ferrari didn't have a chance.
No, Ferrari wasn't. Actually, Mercedes had a better chance than Ferrari at this point. So this is just crazy stuff going on in the second. Well, the last half of the season, we got 3 races left, and the Merc is starting to wake up, and more and more every race. I think they're definitely going to be a car to deal with for next season, and I think hopefully, fingers crossed, Max and Lewis get back in battle form like they did in the last couple laps there.
So let's look forward to that, because in the bullpen afterwards, you could see Lewis Hamilton. He was satisfied with the P2. I think in the end, he knew they didn't have a chance in hell at winning the race because of that back straight.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, if Leclerc and the Ferrari weren't able to just fly through tires the way they did, and they could have fought a little bit more, Lewis might have been able to snag a win. But in the end, in the bullpen, you could see there's a shimmer of light in his eye.
There's almost a smirk on his face.
Yeah, like he knows.
We're getting you.
Yeah, I think Mercedes has finally figured something out. The question is it too late? Because there's only 3 races left this season, and let's not pretend like Red Bull aren't still developing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, with that being said, looking forward to next year, do we actually think that Lewis and Max could get the clash going again?
I think so. Just because of you know, Mercedes and having the R&D and stuff like that, like the personnel on their team to actually develop, and they know what's wrong with their car. They know exactly what's wrong with their car, but they can't completely redesign the car until in the off season. So I think they realize what they did wrong with this car. They know what they can do to fix it. And next season it should come back stronger, because they're slowly adding more and more upgrades to this car, and it's getting better. It is. It really is. And you can see it when, you know, it's not like, yes, when Max passed him at the end of the straightaway, he dove on him late, but it wasn't like, at the beginning of the season, he would have went past him halfway down the straightaway. Easily.
Yeah.
You
well,
know,
first, at the beginning of the season, the Mercedes wouldn't even be in the position. Like, wouldn't even be in P1, let's be honest.
Exactly.
Like, so, going back to that, though, I think in the end, the engine, the power unit that Mercedes has versus the power unit that Red Bull has, and everybody else for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, that Red Bull Honda engine is just crazy fast.
Yes.
It's a straight line deficit
Yes.
in the end. So how can Mercedes get around that? And I know they're saying it's the car is draggy, da-da-da-da-da. But to me, it looked like power because a lot of them Mercedes engines or cars powered engines, they're just not fast.
Yeah, but I also think they're also like you said, that drag is going to be a big effect on them, right? So if they're not, yes, I think yes, the motor is not the strongest compared to the Red Bull at the top end. But if you have a top end issue with the engine and drag issue, it's just going to multiply when you get to the end of the straightaway and be like, well, we have nothing at the end of the straightaway. So, I think Merc knows what they're doing. I think even Ferrari's going to be coming back strong next year just because they have to. Like, they cannot have another season like the past 2 seasons where, 3 seasons ago they get caught cheating and all of a sudden they're nowhere to be found now. So, really and truly, how bad were they cheating to be winning races, almost winning a championship?
Yeah.
And then falling on their face throughout the season.
Let's touch base on that. Because after the race, now Leclerc finished P3. But he looked completely dejected at the end of the race.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
I think he's just realized that, the team's got to change.
Do you think it almost looked like he realized at that moment after the race, they're further away than they thought? And it also looked like a point of reckoning where he's like, Mercedes has caught us and passed us.
Yep.
And they will probably leapfrog us. Yep. In the Constructors by the end of the season, and depending on what happens with Red Bull now, although I can't see them taking away the Constructors Championship
I don't
now,
think so.
even though...
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Mercedes gets P2 in the championship, gets more money to develop that car, and he's probably thinking in his head, like, wait a second, if by the start of the season, we were winning races, we finished 1-2.
Yeah.
Right?
Several
First
times.
race, yeah. And then by the end of the season, that team that was way off is now in front of us. How does my 2023 look up? Like, that is what he looked like. And I get it. A lot of them look tired, but he looked a different kind of tired.
Yeah, I think he's more of a lost tired, like you were saying. Like, he looks at next season now, and he's like you said, most teams are getting better and better and better. Look at Aston Martin and Vettel.
We'll
talk about that. But you can see, like, every team is getting better. Even Haas, better and better and better. And it seems like Ferrari is the only team that's going backwards. Like, everything they bring to the table is not making them any faster. Other teams, and if they are becoming faster, the other teams are doing stuff to become even faster than them. And I think right now I think Ferrari is at a loss for words because I don't think they think it's the personnel and the people that are in the positions, which is I think stupid.
Right.
The people that make the call is why your car is like that. No matter what, it's not the driver, it's not anything. Those you look at the top drivers in F1 and they can drive any of those cars and make it win. But when your team is making decisions to develop this and put this add-on and do this add-on and the car gets worse and worse and worse, do you just go back to this car you started with in March?
I think in the end, like, what I noticed about the Ferrari car was it doesn't bounce anymore.
Yeah.
So they fixed that by the end of the season. But it's still very, very hard on the tires. And we saw it. Leclerc and Verstappen were in a dogfight. Verstappen had a slow stop in this race. Leclerc leapfrogged him. And he was doing his best to kind of but once the dogfight was kind of over and Max got past him, it went to a 1 second, to a 2 second, to a 3 second, within 3-4 laps, and it's just that car is just so difficult on the tires, which is probably why it qualifies well because it fires the tires up right away. But the points are handed out on Sunday, and I think Leclerc is seriously kind of contemplating like, what is going on here? Because he, by all rights, should be able to fight for a championship right now.
Yeah, I agree.
I think outside of Max, who I think is the best driver right now, Lewis, who given the right tool could actually... Lewis is Lewis, we know that. Arguably the greatest of all time. But I do feel like the top 3 drivers on the grid are those 3.
Yes.
Right? And even George is in the mix for a top 4 depending on the day.
Yeah.
Right? But he just looked completely dejected on that, man.
And when... He's usually pretty talkative in the debrief room, I guess you could say. And it was like he was asking Lewis questions, but it was like more, oh yeah, how is this? What about this? Oh yeah, like, how is your tire here? And it's just like, I think he just realized now, he just signed, he has a big contract with a team that he doesn't have exactly the confidence right now.
Yeah.
And when you look at your future in F1 and you see all these guys jumping around to team to team to team, you can't help but think, did I make this right decision? Did I make the right... step going towards Ferrari and being their driver. Because he's locked in there for a long time unless he wants to leave.
Well, he's locked in there for a long time, and let's be honest, it looks like a restructure is going to happen at Ferrari, like from a management side of things, from the top down. Yes. So now all of a sudden, you going into the unknown. Like nothing's worse than having a job and then having a new boss come in and shake everything up, and maybe you don't jive with them. Maybe the car goes this way. Maybe he likes somebody better. Like there's so many variables.
There's so many variables, and really and truly, this team needs a revamp. There's stuff going on in the background that we probably don't see, but I think, that the team needs to be totally overhauled. Like, whatever they're doing now, do the opposite, because it is going the opposite way they want it to, so you might as well do the opposite of what you're doing and see if that works, because it's not working. You're getting worse and worse and worse as the season goes on. Their Merc is getting better and better and better, and like you said, they're going to leapfrog Ferrari before the end of the season.
Well, I think the thing that really hurt was Carlos Sainz being out of the race. Yeah. Like if he was able to continue, you probably had enough speed to come back into the points and put some points on the board. Yeah. But now, you got two Mercedes finishing the points. Yep. Right? And the gap is getting closer and closer and closer. Mm-hmm. And it's looking like, to me, I think we called it maybe 2, 3, 4 after the last crazy Bernardo incident where we're like, yo, this guy needs to get fired. Yeah. Like, I think it was right before the mid-season break. We were saying Mercedes is going to leapfrog them by the end of the season, and we'll see how it all plays out.
I think it's going to happen. Like, it really and truly, Ferrari is they're just struggling to put anything together right now. Yes, like we said, they put the poles together, but when it comes to race pace, they're one of the worst. Yeah. Like, they are literally one of the worst cars for race pace, and that's putting all the teams into the mix. Like, I'm not even just saying the top 3 teams, like, you look at like Alpine and all these guys that get into the race and they have race pace. They don't have quality pace, but they have race pace. Big time. Yeah. And I think, like you said, that's that tire dag that everyone else seems to be, okay, these tires are all right, these tires are all right. And Leclerc and Sainz are always like the first people on the radio to be like, these tires feel like crap right now. Mm-hmm. So like you said, I don't know what the car design's doing, that it's really, really stressful on those tires, but they have to figure something out real quick, because if this is what they're going into the off season with, it doesn't look promising for next season.
Now, on the flip side, going into the off-season riding a high right now, I would have to say is Aston Martin. Yes. Because over the past couple of races, since that summer break, they've managed to show some pace in the car. I was so disappointed at the incident with Stroll and Alonso, just because Stroll was having such a good weekend. He was having a great weekend. He qualified well. He was up to P3 after corner 1. We knew he wasn't going to keep it there, but he was setting himself up for a nice top 5
finish.
And then we had the incident with him and Alonso. Let's discuss that. Who do you think was at fault? Is that just a bang racing play? Yeah. What happened there?
It was Stroll. Like, he pulled out so late. Like, Alonso was literally at his rear wing, and then Alonso pulled out, and he pulled out with him. And it's like, this is the exact reason, what you just saw is the exact reason why there's penalties against Weavin'. And that was a very dangerous move by Stroll. And I honestly, we're just lucky that Alonso didn't touch the fence in that situation.
Well, he touched the top fence.
Yeah, touched the top. Like, he hit the guardrail. Like, he just touched the guardrail and everything. But like, we're lucky that the car didn't take off and go into the fences on that straightaway.
It was a 50-50 ball for a second, because the car was like literally like an airplane about to take off, and then I think the rear left kind of tapped the barricade, and that's what made it settle down.
It's very, very lucky that wasn't a lot worse.
Because it's the high-speed section of the track, that fast straight, right?
Yeah, and the fact that, Stroll, like you said, Stroll was having such a great run. I was so happy. I was like, this guy finally showing his speed. He's showing some great pace. And then he pulls this, and it's like, come on, Lance. Like,
live to fight another day. Like, he had the run on you. And sometimes it's better to just give it up.
Especially that early in the race.
Especially the Alpine. You never know. Them things break down a lot. Yeah, like, they're fast cars.
Yeah, they do. They do break down.
But they do break down a lot, So
just let it go, and then, or go back at him for the next corner. Like, and with, at the end of the straightaway there with the left-hander, you can set him up to dive on him 2 corners later if you set him up properly. Yeah. So,
it was disappointing for sure, because the car was working. The car was working. And if you need any further proof of that, look at Seb. Yeah. Seb was vintage. And everybody's talking about the back and forth with Magnussen at the end, which was great. Yeah. Great. Don't get us wrong. But he had a great race.
Yes,
he had a great race. Yeah. And if it wasn't for that pit stop, I think we're looking at a P5, maybe P6 for sure. Which is a great result for him and for the team, coming off a great result in Suzuka. And it just made me think, man, if this is what we're getting, because it looks like the car is starting to come along. It's like, this is what we're getting right now. Like, oh, it's a shame to see him go and retire, man.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. It's, he's still got fight in him. Like, I don't think he'll be done racing cars forever, but I think he'll definitely, he still had some fight left him in for F1, and how everything went around and how Stroll did everything and all that stuff. It was like, that's kind of disrespectful, to be honest. Like, I think it, how.
Yeah, you're talking about the Alonso announcement without him announcing retirement first.
But the thing is, it was like a forced retirement. That guy has developed your car for how long now? Developed your kid for how long now? He's taken him under his wing. And then because he wants a multi-year deal, like, what the hell?
I know. I tell you the most interesting part, and I hope the cameras are rolling in the Aston Martin garage for Netflix. I think that dynamic between Alonso and Big Stroll could go one of two ways.
It's going to go the opposite.
Yeah, it could, because if you go back to the Ron Dennis thing, like, if that's going to be Alonso's approach, and granted, he seems a lot more mature now, but I think in the end he's still the same guy because people don't really change that much. There could be fireworks in that garage. Quickly before we move on, speaking of the Alonso thing, Alonso got a penalty after the race, which is further underlining the issues with the FIA, because there's a meatball flag for a reason. And for those that don't know, the meatball flag is like your car is not operational, is not safe
with your vehicle.
You need to pull into the pit. Your race is done. And there was, Tim Cook wasn't waving anything with any vigor. But Jesus,
Tim Cook, baby. Tim Cook. You needed a Red Bull before that wave, man. That was just
something. That was brutal. And to further outline it, that's the problem.
Yes, I agree.
F1 in America.
I agree.
That is like the exclamation point.
That is
first
the
off,
businessman right there.
I didn't even know who this guy was. I had to Google it. I'm like, oh, he's the CEO of Apple or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, you got all these celebrities. Shaq is there. Brad Pitt is there. Like, there's so many people that could wave the flag with enthusiasm.
That would want to be there.
Yes, and you got this doofy dude who literally probably has never watched a race, doesn't know anybody's name, doesn't know nothing. And this further outlines the issue with America. The fans love it. Huge grandstand. A lot of money at play. But when there's the opportunity for the marketing and the branding, they get it all wrong. Tim Cook was an example. Brad Pitt the pit walk, but doing the pit walk with Brundle, just disrespecting Brundle. It's like, dude, you're on the grid, and he's asking to speak with you. What do you think you're here to do? What do you think? And you're executive producing an F1 movie. Yo, you have to talk to the guy who's going to ask you questions about F1. Last year with Megan Thee Stallion, it's like
her security brushed them off. It's like they get off the grid.
And this is where they get it wrong. When you look at the races that go on in Europe and that, the soccer stars are there, David Beckham is there, whoever is there, and they sit and they give time. Regardless of what, Serena Williams, they all just, and I just hate that part. Totally derailed the conversation.
No, but it's true.
But it is a conversation. The celebrities, you either understand you're there to talk about F1 and do your part to build the profile of the sport, or don't be there.
Exactly.
And F1 needs to send the memo out too. You can't have people disrespecting the broadcasters and the commentators, because they play a massive part in your global growth and compensation for the sport.
I totally agree. And the thing is, it's like, even F1, when all of this stuff was happening with Megan Thee Stallion and all that, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do something about it. Did anything happen? No.
Same thing happened.
They're going to put implements that if you're on the grid, you have to talk to the media. Okay, then where's that implement?
How come Brad Pitt was brushing off Brundle?
Yeah, exactly. There is nothing. That's the problem. Exactly like you said. That's the problem with this Liberty taking over F1. It's all about the money. They don't care about the sport, I feel. It's all about how much money they can bring in. And when they start doing stuff like this, it annoys. It's actually a meme central for us when we're looking at pit walks, because every time something happens, like every weekend, there's something that happens with some celebrity that brushes off Brundle like he's nothing.
Meanwhile, this guy's been the voice of the sport for 2-3 decades now. And that's he's not small time. Like in terms of racing, okay, yeah, whatever. But the man sat in the car. He raced on the grid.
He almost died in the car a couple times.
Exactly. And now his job is to get the best content for the show and ramp up the intensity 20 minutes, 10 minutes before the flag or before the lights go out. And you got these celebs who just literally act like they don't even want to be there. I don't know. I think that is also bad for the sport. But like you said, you know, it's memeable, it's content, it's posts, it's engagement. I guess this is where we're at.
Yeah, but it's a respect for the sport at that point. They have no respect for the sport. They're just there to get their own hits on their social media. Like, they're not there for the sport.
Right.
If you're there for the sport, you would do everything in your power to help the sport grow and bring attention to the sport. Right. When all these celebrities are walking onto the grid and they're just like, no, don't talk to me. It's like you're disrespecting the sport by not talking to Brundle.
You're disrespecting Brundle, first off. You're disrespecting Sky Sports. You're disrespecting F1. You're disrespecting all the drivers on the grid. Yeah. You're disrespecting all the mechanics on the grid, all the engineers on the grid. You're disrespecting the fans in the stands because the fans would give their liver to walk on the grid and be 5 feet away from, you know, a Formula One car. Like, there's just so many things that part of it drove me nuts.
And it's happening all the time. It's happening more and more. And like you said, it is sorry to say, it's the U.S. races. You go to a majority of the other races, the celebrities are like, yeah, let's do this. Let's have a talk. Let's shoot the shit.
Yeah.
But when you go to Europe and all the same thing, everyone is there's history there.
Yeah.
The North American market for Formula One is very fresh.
Right.
Very, very fresh.
But they're off to a bad start.
Exactly.
Like, to be honest with you, I listen to Rogan's podcast. I listen to Rogan discuss Formula One from time to time because he's a gearhead.
Yeah.
He has Porsches. He won't buy a
He's waving a flag.
Exactly. And he's in Austin.
Yeah.
He's in Austin. He's one of the biggest, I don't know if it's the biggest celebrity or whatever, but in terms of new age media with the podcast, everybody knows who Joe Rogan is.
Yes,
and he would have been perfect to wave the flag in Austin, Texas, where he lives.
Yep.
At a Formula One race because he's a gearhead.
Yeah.
And chances are, if he was walking down,
Brundle would have. He would have been a guy to love to have a conversation with him about everything.
And that's the kind of guys we need on. That's the kind of celebrity profile. I was so disappointed with Brad Pitt because now I'm like, you're gonna executive produce a Formula One movie.
Yep.
And you don't have time to speak to Martin Brundle?
Yep. I know. It's disrespect. At that point, you're there to bring yourself up. You're not there for the sport. You're not there for anything else. You are there to promote this movie you're supposed to be doing, but you won't even talk to media about it.
Like, Brundle, you could when the thing dropped, you could have made a phone call over to Sky Sports, sat down with Brundle, do the promo, and get that thing moving over in the UK. But now you think he want to talk to you?
No.
Just because you're Brad Pitt, you have zero credibility in motorsport. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, without Lewis Hamilton executive producing it, after I saw that, I wouldn't watch this. No. And I don't even know that I want to watch this.
Yeah.
Celebrities off the grid.
Yes.
That's just what we need moving forward.
I agree.
Unless they're there to build the profile of the sport and share their enthusiasm for the sport, whether they've been watching the sport since the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, or they're just learning and they got through it on Netflix and they're really interested. We need people with interest who can grow the sport and people who act accordingly on grid. You cannot be on grid if you don't want to have people ask you questions because the grid walk is part of the show.
Yes, exactly. And the funny thing is these celebrities, there's like princes in like the Saudi Arabian race that are like, yeah, I'll talk to you guys. Yeah. These guys are worth more than they can even
They got money about. That's unfathomable.
Yeah, and they're like, yes, I will take the time to talk to you.
Yeah.
But then the celebrities who are snobs and walk around and think that they're like the top of the world, don't talk to Brundle.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, come on, man. Like, get your stuff together.
And in the end, that's why society has issue with celebrities.
Yes.
Okay, so let's put that to bed.
And we we were talking. We were saying. But yes, the penalty to Perez. Let's get back to Alonso. Sorry, I to Alonso. Let's get back to that because that went way south.
Way left. But you know what? We needed it.
Yeah, we need. I feel good.
Digress.
I feel good.
Yeah, the penalty. I mean, why did it happen after the race?
I think honestly, that car flew through the air. Yes, it's a penalty. It's in the rule book, black and white, but it's a dumb penalty. It's like the car flew through the air, took damage. Yes, I understand that. But when a mirror's fallen off and you don't meatball him, you should be like, guys, okay, we didn't do anything about it. We're not going to disqualify him for it because it's on us.
Because that's essentially what it was.
Yes. Yeah.
We moved all the way out of the points for that.
Exactly.
Right?
So Like, and it killed my fantasy.
Damn it, man.
Just the fantasy. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can't...
To me, I mean, we're looking at replays on boards.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as it happened. Oh, yeah, that's the point where Alonso's mirror fell. It's like, so you mean to tell me the stewards don't have that?
Exactly. If the stewards missed it and they didn't black flag him or meatball him on the track, you can't go at the end of the race, especially when it was on lap, 12 that it all happened?
Yeah.
13 that it all happened?
It was,
56?
it was Bottas beached and then Stroll and then got mixed up a lap after, right?
So it's like... They had 30... Okay, I'm going to be nice and say 30 laps to give him a meatball flag to say, hey, come in and fix your mirror.
Yeah.
And you didn't. And because of that, Haas went in and said, oh, you know what? Let's protest these guys because that mirror fell off and they didn't come in for the meatball. But they never got a meatball.
Well, how you feel about that, though?
I honestly...
the Haas move.
I think Haas at that point is looking for the maximum amount of points. They need as much money as possible. I respect it. I respect it. It's a rule.
That's a part of the sport.
You have to go by the rules. It's FIA and how they're doing the rules. That's the problem.
Right.
Nothing against Haas. Haas, if I was in the other team and I was in Haas' position that I didn't have a lot of points, I would be protesting all day to get more points. Magnussen was 6th and 7th. Well, 7th because of Alonso. That's their best points they've had all year. So what are they going to do? Protest them? Try to protest Perez too? That's 2 more spots and get the guy in the top 5.
Not mad at it.
No, not at all. No, that's millions of dollars.
Yeah,
millions.
Because there's 10 teams. I think they're in 7th right now. It's AlphaTauri and Williams behind them.
Yes.
So they've literally found themselves.
And Aston just jumped.
Aston's up. Aston's up. I was looking at the point spread because quiet is kept. When we do the end of the year, that AlphaTauri has to be discussed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't understand what happened to them. It's like Red Bull said, "All right, Red Bull, Alpha who?"
Yeah, which is
you mean Alfa Romeo, right?
All right, overwhelmed, underwhelmed, surprised.
Overwhelmed is finally seeing Max and Lewis battle again. I was so happy to see that. And you could see that the fire started sparking a little bit again in Lewis and being like, "Hey, remember, I'm coming for you next year." And he said it at the end of the weekend. I still got a lot of fight in me, and he's not going anywhere. So this is what we need for the sport, to see the two titans going at it again.
Could this be a rivalry for the ages?
I think so.
Do you think if next year it'll be a fresh year, and Mercedes, given the worst, will be able to start like this, right? So they'll be able to finish ahead of Ferrari. They'll be able to finish behind Red Bull, right? Do you think that we can look back on this 10 years, 15, 20 years down the line and be like, that rivalry between Max and Lewis is probably the best that we've ever seen?
I think so. If we continue to see what happened last year into next season, I think it's going to be huge. And I do think, Hamilton has a lot of unfinished business to battle with that guy.
He said that guy.
Yeah, he did.
he said that guy.
That guy. So I think he really has to realize, everyone has to realize that when he has a car to compete, I think he wants to go blow for blow with Max. Crash or not crash, I think he wants that season where he looks back at the championship he lost last year and
it's tainted, and he knows why he lost it too, so that's got to be burning him.
That's got to be burning him. He's probably looked back at racing and was like, why was I so nice to him there? Why did I leave this?
Too much gentleman driver.
Why didn't I pinch him here?
Even yesterday.
It was just kind of like
but he wanted the switchback.
Yeah.
But then Max just completely
blocked it.
It was like Brazil all over again. Exactly. On track this time. He was way off the apex point.
Yeah.
Anyhow, whatever. That's how racing. That's racing.
But
I'm not gonna lie, I would do the same.
I think if they were to go blow for blow again like they did last year, I think we'll see a lot more damaged cars. I really do. And I just because I think Lewis in his mind right now is like, this little shit came in. Beat me. And if you look back at the races, it looked like he bullied me. You know what I mean? There was a lot of running him wide, and Lewis was trying to be clean. Max was the young kid that wanted his championship and was using the rule book to his extent. Yeah. That's all it was.
And for everybody that's about to bring up Silverstone, you gotta relax.
Yeah.
Because making a move on the outside 9 times out of 10, unless you're Seb this weekend, is not going to work, first off. And second off, Lewis was penalized for that.
Yeah.
Even though it was a racing incident, in all transparency and honesty, he was penalized for that. And he still came back and won.
And won, yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And since you want to bring that up, Let's bring up the Italian Grand Prix where Max ended up on Lewis's head.
Oh, but was that Lewis's fault?
All right.
Oh, remember Lewis didn't give him room.
Square. Even. Don't bring it up. Do not bring it up.
Exactly.
All right.
Underwhelmed. I don't know what is going on with Ricciardo. It's depressing.
He looked depressed.
It is, like, I feel so bad for him. Like, he looked like he was almost in tears at the end of the race. And
he just really had a nothing weekend.
Yeah. He's
like,
just like...
after all the hype, because he's like the U.S. guy. He got the mustache and the cowboy hat and the chaps and all that. And he just felt flat.
I don't know, man. Maybe a good year off might help him. You know, get him back into it and being a reserve driver.
But bro, you're only as good as your last race.
Yes. But he also has the history of being Daniel Ricciardo, who is the most marketable guy in F1, I would say.
You think so?
I think so.
In the history of F1?
Not in the history. I said in F1 right now.
In F1 right now. More marketable, more marketable than Max, for sure.
I'm not talking Max. I'm saying of all the rest of them.
Okay, so anybody who's not a champion and not Lewis.
Yes. I would say he is probably, because everyone knows who Daniel Ricciardo is.
Okay, he's got the biggest name. His brand is biggest. Okay,
his brand is big.
I'll rock
he's got like a huge smile where he always brings positivity, even though he's going through one of the worst seasons of his life.
Yeah.
And even at the at the end of every every weekend, he's depressed. But then he comes back into the next race, and he's more than okay again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
racer's memory, man. You
exactly.
gotta let it go.
Where a lot of these guys will come into a weekend and still be talking about the last weekend corner, and they just won't drop stuff. You know what I mean? So. Yeah,
I know what you mean. It was. You know what? I hope for his sake, the next couple races he's able to piece away something.
Just needs something.
Just finish in the top 10.
Just a spark to keep him going.
Something.
Yeah.
Word on the street is he's going to be Mercedes reserve driver.
Now it might be Red Bull. He might be going back to Red Bull. There was talk this weekend that he might be going back to Red Bull as a reserve driver. Wow, right?
Yeah.
Wow, right?
You know what? I think in the end, Cyril was right.
Yeah,
he should have just right because he could have been at Alpine and
had a long career. He would have been fine.
But who are we to say?
Yeah.
Surprised.
Vettel, man.
It's gotta be.
Gotta be.
I mean, there's no point in
that was a drive up. Like when he went back after the pit stop, I was like, oh no, there goes this race. Yeah.
Deflation.
And then the last 10 laps, it was like Vettel pass. I was like, where's this guy coming from?
Yeah, no, it was good, man. It was such a great weekend for him. Like, and you know what, for Aston in general, because I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the Canadian. Like, we always have started the season where I was like Aston, and a couple of years ago maybe it was warranted because of the Racing Point, and they performed really well. But the last 2 seasons have been kind of a letdown. But since that summer break, they look like they've developed the car a little bit, and it's coming around. And just to see Seb just out there hustling it. You know,
coming out with a smile.
In the positions we're used to seeing. I mean, he's a 410 world champion. You know what I mean? Like, so it was nice to see. It's a shame that he's retiring. You know, and who knows, man? Maybe a podium is in the cards by the end of the season. Yeah. You never actually know, but we will find out because this weekend another race, Mexico Grand Prix coming up. It's Checo's home race, which is going to be great. And we forgot to mention this, but shouts out to Max Verstappen, who ties the single season wins.
Yes,
13 now, 13, and of course, you know, rest in peace to the founder of Red Bull, which was sad news.
Yeah, DD he's been around. He started the Red Bull team. Like, he's been every single Red Bull championship that has ever come around. That guy is the reason for it.
Yeah.
And it is a sad day in motorsports when we see people like this. You know, with Sir Williams last year and with him this year, a lot of the car owners, the original car owners, are getting
Niki Lauda.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
it's getting. It's you know, it is. It's life, but it is a sad part in sport. And you know, these influential people. You know, we always want to keep them in our minds and on the track and around the industry. So, you know, he got a good memory this weekend, especially with Red Bull clinching the championship for the Constructors.
The 3C championship, but we'll let that slide.
The 3C. The 3C.
All right. Till next weekend, I'm Dames. For Daryl Timmers, we're saying farewell. It's been another Race Weekend Canada's F1 podcast.